It's one of the oldest adages in the book. Money can't buy happiness. But what about political power?
Politics follows the money.
Take a quick look at the fundraising numbers for some of the House's most powerful members. The figures in the millions to tens of millions are staggering. Take a closer look and you'll see there's one name that consistently tops the chart. This election cycle, every headline reads the same. Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy has shattered fundraising records, mostly his own. McCarthy's team didn't respond to multiple requests for comment on his fundraising efforts, but federal election data shows his personal campaign committee brought in more than $21 million in just the last 18 months.
A lot of candidates are too shy and don't want to ask, but Kevin McCarthy is willing to ask.
As McCarthy has gained political success, he's become one of the most effective fundraisers ever on Capitol Hill. In fact, some say it's the key to his success.
Kevin McCarthy is a magnificent fundraiser. Some might argue that part of the reason he's in the position he's in the House is simply because he's so good at fundraising.
John Thomas is a Republican strategist who worked on GOP House races across the country. He explains, we often think of political donors as lobbyist groups or special interest groups. But Thomas says it's often contributions from individuals that make a difference. And bringing in those donations, he says, is the ultimate campaign strategy.
Some candidates, have this down to an absolute science where you can see them taking public positions that they know will get them on Rachel Maddow, and then they'll able to take the clip, put it on their email system, and raise, a couple $100,000.
For McCarthy, it's been an eventful 18 months, and the funds have been pouring in. According to the donations McCarthy has filed with the Federal Elections Commission, McCarthy's personal campaign committee, Kevin McCarthy for Congress, brings in thousands from individual donors every day. Those contributions are often tied to his most outspoken days in Washington. We looked at the donations filed under the category individual McCarthy's campaign committee recorded. In January 2021, McCarthy had 3 days in which his donations from individuals peaked.
And now with today's vote,
on January 5th, McCarthy's PAC recorded bringing in more than it did on the first, second, third, and fourth days of the month in total. Following a speech he gave criticizing Democrats for their new rules in the House.
That same socialist idea have found their way onto the floor and into the rules of the U.S. House of Representatives.
The next day came the January 6th Capitol attack. The 6th and 7th brought few donations. Funds spiked again on January 15th, the day after McCarthy said he didn't support ousting GOP Representative Liz Cheney from a Republican leadership role for her vote to impeach former President Trump. On January 22nd, funds from individual donations shot up $18,000 from the day before. The increase followed a press conference in which McCarthy said he didn't believe former President Donald Trump provoked the Capitol attack.
I don't believe he provoked if you listen to what he said at the rally.
That press conference just 8 days after he said this.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters.
Late at night on February 12, 2021, came the news of McCarthy and Trump's expletive-filled phone call on January 6th, when McCarthy said he told Trump to call off the riot. GOP colleagues said it led to a shouting match.
And the president's response to Kevin, to me, was chilling. He said, well, Kevin, I guess they're just more upset about the election, theft than you are.
The next day, McCarthy's individual funds dipped by $25,000.
We cannot be dragged backward by the very dangerous lies of a former president. Thank you.
In May 2021, when single day encompassed 20% of his individual donations for the whole month, that day was the 12th, when he brought in more than $174,000 after successfully holding a vote to oust Cheney from her GOP leadership role after her vote to impeach former President Trump. In July 2021, McCarthy brought in $25,000 more from individuals on the 12th than any other day that month.
Critical race theory goes against everything Martin Luther King has ever told us.
That day, he posted a video on Twitter criticizing critical race theory.
If I sound angry, I am.
The next big month came in November 2021, when McCarthy's committee recorded more than $50,000 from individuals on the 19th, a $40,000 increase from the day before.
When inflation is at a 31% hike, gas prices, Thanksgiving, a border that in a few months breaks every record.
That was after McCarthy delivered an 8-hour speech on the House floor to stall Democrats from passing President Biden's Build Back Better Act. In January 2022, McCarthy's PAC recorded individual donations peaked during 2 parts of the month.
Maybe if Nancy Pelosi had done what other speakers would do and not play politics with it, there could have been a different answer.
On January 12th, the committee investigating the attack on the Capitol sent a letter to McCarthy requesting he come in for an interview. Late that night, McCarthy declined and brought in over $120,000 over the next 3 days. On the 25th, fundraising more than doubled after the Supreme Court declined to take his case to end proxy voting in the House. On February 4th, 2022, McCarthy's individual donations rose $20,000 from the day before. The 4th was when McCarthy said on Fox Republican representatives and staunch Trump critics Cheney and Adam Kinzinger would have a hard time ever returning to Congress after the Republican National Committee voted to censure the pair. On February 28th, his individual funds tripled from the day before. That day, McCarthy posted to Twitter a video he coined the real State of the Union. He also condemned Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar for attending an event with ties to a white nationalist. April 2022 was a month McCarthy took center stage in Washington news.
I've had it with this guy. What he did is unacceptable. Nobody can defend that, and nobody should defend it.
In late April, the New York Times released recordings of McCarthy where he sternly criticized former President Donald Trump's handling of the Capitol attack. It didn't slow his fundraising. McCarthy's most lucrative day this month was April 27th, when he brought in more than $80,000 in individual donations. That was the first full day the Republican caucus was back together since the release of the tapes. GOP colleagues say McCarthy received a standing ovation after explaining his comments. It's another part of McCarthy's campaign finance portfolio that strategists, analysts, and even other lawmakers say is what makes his money so influential.
Other candidates that either may win their primaries or may have very tight races, if Kevin McCarthy's able to give them some extra money, that may allow them to stay in office or win office. And of course, they're going to be appreciative to Kevin when it comes time to different.
McCarthy's ability to raise and donate funds even earned him the title of the LeBron James of lobbyist and PAC fundraising. In an interview with Time magazine, Representative Matt Gaetz called McCarthy the most elite fundraiser in the history of the Republican caucus, adding, quote, "That's his covenant with the conference." Democratic analyst Neil Sinapa says if McCarthy faced a tight race here at home in his district, he would have less money to spread around the GOP, noting that it could happen if a challenger were able to get 42% of the vote.
Because once we get to that point, then McCarthy is having to spend money, having to do media buys here, having to send more mail here, having to, hire canvassers to go knock doors for him.
According to his team, McCarthy has 5 fundraising entities, including a personal leadership political action committee, majority committee PAC.
Originally, the intention was that leadership PACs would be for a candidate to fundraise to support other candidates of their political party.
These PACs are limited to donating $5,000 per election, $10,000 in total when you add the funds for the primary and general races. On February 7th, 2022, McCarthy's majority committee PAC donated the maximum $10,000 to GOP Representative Madison Cawthorn. The donation came in the middle of a legal battle in which a group of voters in North Carolina argued Cawthorn was ineligible to run for office because he engaged in an insurrection when he spoke at Trump's rally on January 6th. On May 24th, 2022, McCarthy's PAC gave the maximum to GOP Representative and very conservative Freedom Caucus member Marjorie Taylor Greene on the day of her primary in Georgia. McCarthy's PAC also maxed out donating to conservative House members Jim Jordan and Jim Banks, the two members McCarthy picked to sit on the January 6 panel that Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected. In March 2022, McCarthy's PAC gave to Harriet Hageman, the Republican candidate who has the backing of Trump. She's seeking to oust Liz Cheney from Wyoming's only House seat. But McCarthy's PAC donations have also strayed from Trump's picks.
First things first, though, I want to hear about inflation, how we're going to tackle inflation.
In March, McCarthy's PAC gave to Nancy Mace, the South Carolina House incumbent who Trump actively campaigned against. And in May, it gave to Peter Meyer, the Michigan representative who voted to impeach Trump. As we mentioned, we reached out to McCarthy's office for a comment about his fundraising, but didn't hear back. And as November's midterm election quickly approaches and the GOP gets closer at its chance of taking back control of the House, McCarthy's funds are only expected to increasingly pour in and strategically flow out. Maddie Gannon, 17 News.